Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Hong Konger on the home side, half English on the away side, and both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel several times before, albeit the Hong Kong brewery a bit more frequently than the English brewery in this case. But if people were to ask me about the Hong Kong brewery, I would say that they're probably best known for their different kinds of German beer, namely lagers, which I really enjoy, whereas the English brewery is a bit better known for their kind of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, and indeed they're considered one of the pioneering breweries in England in this particular regard. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is the latest in a series of beers by the Hong Kong brewery. They do one of these every month, a collaboration usually. And it's a style that I haven't tried from either brewery before actually, so this should be quite interesting. It's a style that is growing in popularity at the moment, and even within that particular style category, this one is a little bit different compared to the other ones I've tried. So yeah, quite a few points of interest when it comes to this particular beer. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head for the home side of things down to Hong Kong Island. We're going to go to Wong Chuk on the southern part of the island, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Young Master Brewery. So this particular beer is called Through Road. It comes in at 6% ABV, and they're describing this one as a hazy cold IPA, and it's brewed in collaboration with Track Brewing, who come from Manchester over in England. So this is the very first time I've had a cold IPA that's been described as a hazy cold IPA, so that should make it quite interesting. The ones that I've had before have been more along the lines of like a kind of West Coast IPA. But yeah, for those of you who don't know what a cold IPA is, it's basically a beer that uses an IPA recipe, but they ferment it with a lager yeast at a lower temperature, hence the name cold IPA. But these beers tend to be really light, clean and drinkable. And I'm curious to see what the addition of the wheat and oats, which I'm guessing are in this one, actually brings to the flavour of the beer. So yeah, this is another kind of first for the channel, a cold hazy IPA actually. So let's crack on with this and see how we go. I'm sure this will be pretty good considering the two breweries involved. And this is yet another one of the Young Master Circle K releases here in Hong Kong. I don't know if Track Brewing actually brewed their own version of this in England. I'll need to check that out. But yeah, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Young Master and from Track Brewing, and we will no doubt add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist and the English playlist, and both of those are being added to whenever I get the opportunity. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about the breweries. We'll start off with Young Master first, since they are the home brewery in this case. So Young Master, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Wong Chuk over on Hong Kong Island, and the company was founded back in 2013 by Rohit Dugar, who is originally from New Delhi in India, but he had moved to New York. He moved from New York to Hong Kong back in 2011, and he worked for a number of years for Goldman Sachs before he got tired of it and he quit and decided to found his own microbrewery, having been exposed to craft beer over in the US. But he was joined at the brewery in the early days by German brewer Ulrich Altbauer, who had quite an extensive experience of brewing in mainland China, and he was the original master brewer, but sadly he died in 2016. The current brew team though is Edwin and Brian, both of whom have worked for the brewery for a good number of years. Their first brewery was in Ap Lai Chau, which is a little island just off the south coast of Hong Kong Island, and this facility had a 10 hectolitre brew house and acted as their main production until mid-2016. From what I understand, Ulrich died just after they closed this original brewery. But they opened up the new brewery in Wong Chuk with a 40 hectolitre brew house from GA in Germany, as well as a larger barrel aging area, and they also put a fodder in there as well for producing sour beers, and they were the first brewery in all of Asia to do this, which is pretty cool. The latest figure I've seen for their brewing capacity is around 15,000 litres of beer per month. I'm not sure whether that is still accurate, so I'll need to ask them about that. But over the years, they've had several tap rooms and restaurants. The ones that are still operating are TAP in Mong Kok, Second Draft at Victoria Park, and Pub 1842 in Central. They had Alvy's in Kennedy Town, which was a lovely pizza restaurant, and they also had a TAP Ale project in Sheung Wan as well, actually. But they do also have their bar called The Guild in Tanjong Pagar in Singapore as well, which is quite nice. I went in there for one when I was down there last April. But these guys are the largest craft brewery by volume in Hong Kong, and also the most decorated Hong Kong craft brewery as well, from what I understand. And as of September 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 280 different beers, and they now employ over 20 people. So one of the Hong Kong breweries that you really need to check out, particularly if, like me, you enjoy your lager beers. And you can get their Pilsner in pretty much any Circle K store in Hong Kong these days, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Young Master Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to the English side of things then with Track Brewing. So Track Brewing, as I've told you before, are based in the Piccadilly area of Manchester in England, and this company was founded back in 2014 by Sam Dyson. So Sam studied maths and economics at university originally, and then homebrewed while he was studying because it was a source of cheap beer, but over time he grew very fond of the science of brewing and the creativity it allowed him while still having this kind of central process that you followed. But after studying, he took a trip on his bike, travelling across 5 continents and 25 countries. It took about 2 years apparently, but the first part of this trip was to go across the US, and it was there that he started visiting lots of different tap rooms and trying lots of different beers. So when he returned to England, he went to London and started working in the beer industry before he wanted to go home to Manchester. But he rented out an arch on Sheffield Street, very close to Piccadilly Station in the city, and so there were a lot of good food producers and other breweries in this area. So he went into a very kind of well-established beer area almost. But he was joined early on by Matt Dutton and Will Harris, and the brewery's since become very, very decorated. They've got their own tap room a few streets away from the brewery, and as of September 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 460 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I mentioned, these guys are considered one of the real pioneers of the New England Hazy IPA style category in England, and their stuff is pretty damn good in my experience. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Track Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself then. A little bit of a longer history section for you, since this one is a collaboration beer. But yeah, there you go. You can see the artwork on this one. It's quite similar to what we've seen from Young Master in the past. You can see at the top there is the Young Master symbol, and there you can see the Track Brewing symbol there as well, and you've got the Young Master pants on the front there too. Plain silver top on the can. This one is of course 330 millilitres, and yeah, it looks pretty nice, this one. This was released for October 2024 through Circle K stores there. But yeah, it says on the side here, together with our friends Track from the UK, we take immense pride in our roles as conduits to forge connections and bridge communities. Road celebrates the fusion of passion and culture, a lager and ale yeast fermented IPA with an effulgent base tropical character and pillowy mouthfeel with a crisp drinkability. So yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. Like I said, this is the first time I've tried a hazy cold IPA. Most of them tend to be a little bit more like the West Coast IPAs, and the main difference in the malt bases of those beers is that the West Coast IPA uses only barley malt for the most part. It's not unheard of to use a little touch of wheat or a little touch of oat, but mostly barley malt. New England hazy IPAs use quite a lot of oat and wheat to give them that kind of haziness and the kind of smoother mouthfeel. The hopping is slightly different as well. West Coast IPAs use a lot of early edition hopping to get that bitterness, whereas the New England's use late edition and dry hopping mostly. West Coast IPAs use that as well though. But 6% cold hazy IPA, this one, through road. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious about this. I've heard good things though from different beer lovers in Hong Kong. So let's get this guy out there and see what it's all about. It still pours pretty clear though. That's the interesting thing. It's just got a little touch of haze to it. So, there we are. Let me just put this back so that my OCD is happy. There you are. So, you can see then we've got the whole can out into the glass, and you can see that this beer poured with just under a finger of quite a foamy, I would say, slightly cream coloured head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, but it definitely gets a little bit more like kind of soapy the further up that you go. But you can see this beer's poured a lovely kind of pale golden straw colour, and it's got that little bit of natural haze to it, of course. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. And any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that with the different kinds of IPAs. You can see that the beer does have that little bit of haze to it. It looks almost like a kind of what I would call a natural haze, like as if the beer's unfiltered, and I'm guessing that probably is the case with this one actually. But yeah, it looks pretty damn nice in fact. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head, but you can see the head has faded away to just be a kind of thinner foamy layer on the top there, and you've got that nice ring around the edge of the glass. So all in all, appearance wise, this one's not really surprising when you think about what it is. Most of the cold IPAs I've seen have been quite clear like this, and of course you do have this bit of natural haze since it's a cold hazy IPA, so quite happy with that. I don't think we need to say anything else about the appearance of this beer, in all honesty. So let's go on and have a wee look at the aroma and see what it gives us. Very curious about this, as I've said a few times. Ooh, it smells pretty nice. Again, I always find the cold IPAs are quite like oily beers, and you can kind of smell that in the aroma of this one. But it smells really nice actually. I'm quite impressed with this. It doesn't, I will say, it doesn't smell too different from the cold IPAs I've had in the past. Like there's nothing, you know, it maybe smells a little touch more bready because of the wheat and the oat. But yeah, it's kind of what I've had from this style before. So for those of you who don't know, the technical difference really between a lager and an ale is the temperature at which the yeast ferments basically. So lager beers use bottom fermenting yeast that ferment between like 8 and 12 degrees Celsius, whereas ales use top fermenting yeast that will ferment between like 15 and 18 degrees Celsius, something like that. So yeah, the cold IPA uses the lager yeast for the most part, sometimes a little bit of ale yeast like this one is, and it's fermented at the colder temperature, and it's an IPA recipe basically. So yeah, that's basically what's going on with this kind of beer, if you like, but it does smell really nice, this one. I have to say that, but let's break it down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of this beer, you've got a really nice kind of bit of like fresh white bready bread crust in there, like a kind of hedgehog roll, something like that. That's how I would describe it. You do have little hints of like woodiness in there. So yeah, there's a little touch of woodiness to it. There's a wee bit of kind of Jacob's cream cracker as well. And then above that, you've got the woodiness in there, you've got the little bit of Jacob's cream cracker, and there's a wee bit of yeah, there's a wee bit of kind of brown breadiness in this one too, but definitely above that, mostly a kind of white bready character. You can smell a little touch of what I think is wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose at the top as well. And I know that Young Master like to use mainly German ingredients with their beers, so it makes sense that the wheat's got that little bit of bite to it. North American wheat is, of course, a lot smoother in my experience. But yeah, the German wheat is definitely in there, especially when you sugar the beer up, you're going to get that little bit of pungency out of the aroma. And you can certainly smell the oats as well, which are quite interesting. The oats come across as being a little bit drier too, which is kind of interesting, because European oats are quite often very creamy, and North American oats are a bit more sort of porridgey, if you like. But yeah, usually in IPAs, oats can be a rough indicator of how fresh your IPA is. You know, the creamier they smell and taste, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is, generally speaking. But in this beer, you do get a little bit of dryness out of the oat, which is kind of interesting. I do wonder, actually, if they've maybe used a little bit of Pilsner malt in this one, because you can smell a wee bit of like crisp dryness coming off the malt base too, which is certainly quite interesting. So yeah, you've got that little bit of, yeah, you certainly have that little bit of kind of almost Pilsner malty bitiness in there. I'm also getting wee hints of like McVitie's digestive biscuit, and maybe a little touch of like a Werther's original butter candy butterscotch in this one too. But the yeasty side of the beer at the back of the nose, it's kind of like a mix of brown and white bread, like, you know, just a loaf of bread almost. Wee bit of cracker maybe as well. But yeah, malty and yeasty side of this beer comes across quite nicely. Let's have a look at the hoppy side of things then. So I'm not sure how they'll have hopped this beer, whether they'll have used early, late, or whatever type hopping with it. But the thing to remember with IPAs is that you have three types of hoppings. Early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil, that's responsible for the majority of your bitterness, and it gives you that deep, dank kind of green component. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. That gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and it's quite a bright green component that it will give you. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that's all about flavour and aroma, and again, it's going to give you a very kind of bright green component actually. So yeah, with this beer, you can tell it does have a little bit of, it has a wee touch of dankness to it, which is kind of interesting. So there's a wee bit of earthiness and maybe a little bit of a floral dankness to it. But generally speaking, the green component, you've got the nice floral character to it, the nice grassiness in there, and it is a little bit kind of zesty in things, which I do quite like. Yeah, the way this one goes together is really, really nice, in fact. So yeah, the green component in this one kind of suits the beer, the vibe of the beer, generally speaking. But yeah, all in all, the fruity side of this one's quite nice too. It comes across as being quite oily in its fruity character. So yeah, the fruity side of this one is quite nice. You've got a lovely little bit of tropical character to this one. I think it's maybe Citra that's in here, in honesty, because it's got a little bit of that kind of peachy sharpness to it. We've got the juicy mango, you know, apricots, pineapples, stuff like this. Is there? There's something else. There's maybe a bit of like a coconutty note to this. Is it maybe Citra and Sabro that's in here? A little touch of like orange or something? What do they say? They say, yeah, it just says tropical, really. I do wonder that. Maybe there's a little bit of, yes, maybe a wee touch of, there's some just a little touch coconutty about this, and usually that's Sabro, if you get that. But yeah, there's maybe a wee touch of orange to it as well, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that regard is really quite nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, it's aroma-wise, this is really nice and kind of what you would expect from a cold IPA, and you know, particularly a hazy one too. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. but I think it probably is about time that we taste this one and see what it's all about. So let's do that. Yeah, this one is the Through Road, a 6% cold hazy IPA from Young Master Brewery in Wong, Chuk on Hong Kong Island here on the Hong Kong SAR, brewed in collaboration with Track Brewing from Piccadilly in Manchester in England. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Very, very easy to drink. We'll say that straight away. Very easy to drink. I have to admit, that's one of my complaints a little bit about the Hong Kong beer scene in a way, is a beer like this should really be in the 440 can, in all honesty, because it's nice and it's very easy to drink. And yeah, like, you know, Yardley's have 330s, Lovecraft have 330s, Young Master do as well. Yeah, I think Hong Kong maybe needs to kind of move on to the 440s. I don't know if it's for tax reasons or something like that. I'll need to ask one of the brewers. But yeah, I think, yeah, this would be better as a 440 in all honesty. But yeah, this is a really, really nice beer actually. Very well done, and it's at the standards I would expect of Young Master and Track. Although I'd be curious to see Young Master do some more cold IPAs actually, because with their lager background I think they'd be pretty good at it. But yeah, it is really nice, very clean and drinkable beer, but it shows you a little bit more of that kind of smoothness and creaminess of that sort, that kind of flavour that you would expect from the hazy IPA into the aftertaste. That's definitely present with this beer. So yeah, good stuff, but not unexpected, I have to say. Let's break it down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. Middle third of your palate, you've got that lovely kind of white bready, bread crusty background in there. As you, or backbone I should say, as you move further forward you get that little bit of woodiness out of this one, which I do really enjoy. So yeah, you've got that lovely smooth kind of woody character to the beer. Then just above it you've got a little smattering of kind of Jacob's cream cracker, which I do really like. So yeah, for me, the above the cracker, there's maybe a little slight layer, and I will say that the malty part of this beer is quite kind of compressed, and you'd expect that from a cold IPA and from most lagers actually, but you can detect that nice kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of layer in this one. So you've got that layer of kind of wholemeal brown bread, which is quite crisp and quite compressed, which I think is great. Then above that you get the white bready layer, which is nice. So the white bready layer has a little bit more airiness to it, which I think is great. So the white bread and the brown bread, they do have a little touch of dryness to them almost, which actually adds to the crispness of the beer. But I'm pretty sure above that there's a little bit of a kind of more dense white bready character, which is usually the sign of wheat, and it's a little touch bitey toward the back of that middle third of your palate. Then above that, I think there's a little bit of Pilsner malt. Like, I think there might be a touch of that in there, because you can feel that wheaty bitiness just has it has a bit more dryness to it in the aftertaste as well, and you get that nice wee bit of crispness out of the beer. So yeah, I think Pilsner malt and a bit of wheatiness in there is great. So yeah, the way that goes together is really nice in this one. But yeah, above the wheat, you've got a lovely little bit of oaty character in this one. So yeah, there's a lovely little bit of oaty character in there. And as you go down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel it's a little bit more kind of creamy. And as you move out toward the edges of the palate, it shows you a little bit of dryness there. And in the dead centre of your palate, there's a little bit of that like Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of note coming out of the beer. So yeah, a little touch of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotch there, and as you move out toward the edges of your palate, you'll feel a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity type quality. And again, that makes me think, especially into the aftertaste, I do think there's a wee bit of Pilsner malt involved in this one. And yeah, Young Master like their Pilsner malt, we can safely say that. But yeah, this is really, really nice. On the hoppy, or on the back third of your palate, I think we should move there. So generally speaking, you'll get similar flavors between the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate, just at different intensities. But do remember that generally speaking, sweeter flavors come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavors come out further back. But yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the kind of brown bread in the base, the kind of white bread on top of that, then a wee bit of the more kind of wheaty, bitey and pilsner malty type character coming out of this one. But yeah, the back third of your palate, you can feel a more kind of grainy bread crust in the base, a little bit of a crackery layer. Then you've got a brown bready layer which feels a little bit lighter and kind of taller and more airy, and then above that you've got the white bready layer which again feels a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, both of them a little bit drier. Then you get the wheaty notes above that more dense white bread with a wee bit of bite to it, and you can feel a little bit of the crispness of the pilsner malt just creeping over the top there as well. But then above all of that, it's the yeasty character that's coming out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that yeastiness. So yeah, the yeasty side of this one is pretty nice actually. It's like brown bread at its core, then a white bready character around the edge, and then you've got a more kind of crisp, bread crusty character around the very edge of that too, which is quite nice. But definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together a little bit more. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together is pretty damn nice. So again, gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I think we've covered the malty and yeasty side of this beer as much as we need to. So let's go on to the hoppy side of things then. One thing I will say, just since I've stopped taking a little sip of this, the bitterness of this beer does actually build up into the aftertaste too, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, in the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there, and as you move further forward, it's got a little touch of herbal and woody character. Then as you push further beyond that, you maybe get a little touch of pine resin underneath, but not too much. It gets more kind of floral and aromatic and spicy as you move toward the kind of front corners of your palate there, which is nice. But yeah, around the front curve of your tongue, the beer is a little bit lighter and more kind of grassy in a sense. So yeah, you've got that lighter kind of grassiness out of the beer, and yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together, I think, is really nice. The green component in this beer is really good. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the green component, in honesty. I'd be curious to know what hops they have used in this, right enough. But yeah, maybe a bit of Hallertau Blanc actually, I wonder, because they like their German ingredients. That would kind of make sense with this. But yeah, in terms of the front third of your palate and the fruity side of things, so on that border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the wee bit of brown bread in the base, the white bread in the middle, and then the kind of more wheaty pilsner malty stuff on top. At the base of that front third of your palate, yeah, you've got the bread crusty note underneath. You've got the bread crusty notes underneath. You've got the kind of crackery character, the brown bready note, the white bready note, and then yeah, above that you get the sort of wheaty kind of character there. Then there's that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the kind of fruity side of things in this one then. The fruity side of the beer is pretty nice. I'm wondering, there's something telling me maybe Nelson Enigma Hallertau Blanc, something like that about this beer. It's just got that nice little bit of oiliness. Nelson, incidentally, Nelson Sauvin works wonderfully well in these cold IPAs. Maybe it is a straight up Citron Nelson in this one, who knows. But yeah, I think what I was saying about Sabro earlier, I don't think that's right with this one. I'd be quite surprised, in honesty. But yeah, it's just not that orangey, this beer. But yeah, if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, you can definitely get a wee bit of a kind of grapefruity type character in there for sure. Then as you move further forward, it's a bit more like juicy and mango like. There's a bit of passion fruit underneath, and then yeah, some kind of apricots and pineapple as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate. But yeah, further forward from that, you're definitely getting some, further forward from that, there's into the front half of the front third of your palate, it's a lot of like gooseberry, white green grapey kind of notes coming out of this one. So that makes me think Nelson Sauvin. Hallertau Blanc, of course, would be a candidate for that. So a very good hop from Germany, but you don't see it all that often, especially out here in Asia. But yeah, something like that. I think maybe just behind the front tip of the tongue too, there's a little touch of like a lemony limey character. But yeah, mostly tropical fruits out of this one. But as I said, I think this is a really, really nice beer. Gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I don't think we need to say anything else about the flavour of this one, really. I think we've covered it all. So let's round off with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. For me, this beer is... Yeah, for me, this beer, I would say, is quite... it's... Yeah, top end of light bodied. The carbonation's quite smooth. It's got a lovely little bit of a kind of oily character coming out of it, as I say, which is something I like in the cold IPAs in all honesty. And then yeah, you have the yeah, for me, I'd say there's maybe about 30-ish IBUs in this one, maybe 40 at a push. The malt base, you've got a little bit of dryness underneath, the kind of smoothness in the middle, and a wee bit of sweetness on top. And then yeah, you've got that lovely kind of oily, fruity character coming out of this too. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this beer, I think, is really nice. It's a very solid beer. Considering both breweries involved in this one, that's to be expected in all honesty. So yeah, really happy that I got to review this one, and yeah, I think I'll be drinking a few cans of this as the month goes on. I'm reviewing this one quite early. I've reviewed the other ones a little bit later, in all honesty. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Through Road, a 6% cold hazy IPA from Young Master Brewing in Wong, Chuk, Hong Kong Island here in Hong Kong, in collaboration with Track Brewing from Piccadilly in Manchester in England. So yeah, pardon me, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Young Master and from Track, and we will no doubt return to these breweries again at some point in the near future. But in the meantime, check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, and I'll catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now.